Okay, hey guys. It's been a minute. It's been about a year, a little bit over a year actually, since I posted my last video. And I'm posting this video to my Amazon channel uh, just because I think a lot of people might want to kind of see what selling on Amazon can do to you and do for you and how it can impact your life. Um, but I made a high seven-figure exit from my Amazon, my original Amazon account, about 2.5 years ago. I made some videos about it, and it was kind of a life-changing event for me. Uh, I had been selling on Amazon since 1997, 1998, somewhere in that range, and had watched since about 2017, just watched my Amazon business explode. I had started doing training with students around the same time that my business was growing, and have elevated uh, the success for a lot of people over the years. And when I was initially made an offer to buy my business, I turned the people down. Um, I think the way I explained it in the video I made a couple of years ago is that I was contacted just a few days before I was on my way out of town. I was actually headed to Puerto Rico for probably a month and a half or 2 months, and just told the people I wasn't really interested in selling, but if they wanted to send me an offer, I would definitely look at it. Came back from Puerto Rico about 5 or 6 weeks later, and was really just blown away by the size of the offer that they made me, and I accepted that offer. Uh, I had no intentions of leaving Amazon, and I haven't left Amazon to this day completely. But anyway, by the same token, I scaled back my efforts on Amazon quite a bit. I launched a couple of products, individual products that actually I ended up contracting with to make private label products for some national retail merchants. And for the last couple of years, I've been devoting uh, my product-oriented time to that. But with that said, and the reason this is on my Amazon channel, uh, I gave away to charities most of the money I took in from uh, the sale of my business. I'm single. I have no children, and I've always made it a point in life to try and give back. I felt like I was in a pretty good position financially, and I gave away the vast majority of the money I got from the sale of my business. And I've spent the last year and a half or 2 years just traveling pretty extensively. I've made a couple of videos about that on this channel as well. I'm a Formula One racing fanatic, I guess it's fair to say. I have been my entire life. And, I haven't gone to every single race in any given year, but certainly over the last 5 or 6 years, I've been to every track that I have any interest in, and I've been able to cheer on the drivers I like, and I cheer on the teams that I like, and I do a lot of traveling. Uh, other than just to follow the Formula One races, I do traveling pretty extensively. But anyway, um, this video is not about Amazon. It's about what's happened to me in the last 60 days. And it has been by far the most interesting thing that's ever happened in my life, I'll tell you that, and not entirely unexpected. Uh, just to give you the background, in 2020, I was planning to leave the U.S. for about probably 3 years, maybe 4 years. I had purchased a condo in Thailand. I was planning on going there and using Thailand as basically base of operations, if you will, so I could explore Southeast Asia. And then COVID hit, and that delayed me about a little over a year, I guess, in really picking up travel where I wanted to, at the degree and the level I wanted to travel at. But anyway, just prior to 2020, I had undergone basically an aircraft pilot, commercial pilot level physical fitness evaluation. and came through it with flying colors, had no issues at all. Uh, I'm very fortunate that I don't have a history of high blood pressure. I don't have a history of high cholesterol. I'm overweight, but using the BMI index, I've been overweight since I was 12 years old. But I also was a competitive power lifter for about 20 years, and I never gave a whole lot of credence to BMI, and I still don't. At times in my 30s, my body fat was well under 10% for extended periods of time, and that was just from working out. I carried a lot of muscle mass for a person my size, and with that said, I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'4". Uh, I uh, I am shredded at 240 pounds. I mean, I look like uh, somebody you'd see in a gladiator movie. Uh, but my weight had creeped up over the years, peaking at a natural weight of around 270. But still, that's not crazy. My BMI was high, but again, my body composition, my body fat are different than the norm, just because of the number of years I've been weightlifting. I'm not trying to make excuses or create a false narrative, but I just want to give you the full scope of things. But anyway, had a full comprehensive physical stress test, and as part of that, I had a full body scan, CT scan, and there was a little bit of calcium buildup in my heart or in the arteries around my heart, but not much at all. My score was very low, and with my non-existent history in terms of cholesterol and other factors that I had. I've never smoked. I've never used drugs. I don't drink. So, I mean, while I may be the most boring guy in the world, I was also pretty darn healthy for someone my age, and everything looked good. Then I got COVID in June of 2020. I got the first round of COVID, and it hit me really hard, as it did a lot of my neighbors. I had two neighbors who basically fit my physical description that I just gave you. One of them actually passed. I mean, we were within a year or so of each other in age, and basically the same size and a lot of similarities. But one of my neighbors died very quickly from COVID. Another one of my neighbors ended up uh, in the hospital and was on a ventilator for 22 days. Uh, I had what was probably borderline long COVID because I got it, like I said, the end of June, and I didn't get out of bed really until probably around Thanksgiving, and then December, January, going into February, I was feeling progressively better, still getting over that COVID cough, and then in March, that was the first time that I felt like I could get out, move around, and I kind of wanted to test my legs and see, where I was physically in terms of my breathing capacity and my endurance. So I went to Puerto Rico. That's when I left to go to Puerto Rico. So anyway, uh, subsequent to that, a friend of mine who has a history, a family history, a personal history, and a pretty bleak history actually of heart disease in her family. Uh, and for Christmas of 2022, she gave me and her other friends gift certificates to go get another cardiac CAT scan or CT scan. And I went and got the CT scan, which was actually in this case it was for both heart and lungs. And I went only really because I was curious after having COVID. I was curious to see if I had any long-term lung damage. I didn't feel like I had that, or I suspected I might have a little bit, but nothing that was bothering me. But I was just curious from pure just scientific and personal curiosity. So I fully expected when I got my results in the mail, I fully expected the scan to show that I had some lung damage, and it did. Very minor, only about 5% of my lungs, or 5% of one lobe, I should say. I believe that's probably more accurate. And short of me becoming a marathon runner, which I assure you is not on the horizon, nothing that would ever, give me reason to pause in everyday life. There's nothing I can't do. And what did surprise me though is when I turned the page on this test result, my cardiac calcium score had gone up, 100 times. Uh, it was one of the highest calcium scores the facility where I had the test done had ever seen, and it freaked me out. I'll be honest with you. I'm not moved or shaken by many things, but because I knew what this meant, or certainly what it implied, for a couple of weeks I was really uh, in kind of a difficult place, kind of a dark spot. Uh, Not trying to be the guy who is, you know, uh, suddenly had to come to Jesus moment or whatever in his life. I wasn't trying to bargain my way out of this or talk my way out of this situation. But with that said, there was actually a legitimate possibility and a legitimate concern that the results were in error. Um, the clinic that I went to, this imaging clinic, was brand new. They had been open for literally just a couple of days. That's why my friend got these gift cards, because they were trying to build business quickly and they had offered tremendous discounts on the service. Uh, and my time there in the clinic, while relatively short, uh, you were working. There were people there who had only been working there for 48 hours. So the place was again brand new. There was literally paint drying on the walls while I was there, and there were a lot of people that were, apparently in not good physical health that were coming in and getting these scans while I was there. They were pushing people through very, very quickly. And it raised some doubt in my mind as to whether or not possibly they had gotten my results mixed up with someone else's, because the change in the results were just beyond anything that you would expect. Well, uh, anyway, I just want to give you that background. So I've known since early 2022 that it was likely, or potentially likely, that I had some really severe calcification in my arteries around my heart. And for those of you that don't know how this works, I'm not an expert on it, but I'll tell you what little bit I know and what I've been told. The calcium score doesn't necessarily tell you or tell your physician if the calcium is internal to the veins and arteries or if it's external. You have a different prognosis for each of those scenarios. Uh, and there's a lot of other stuff it doesn't tell you. It's really a snapshot. It's almost like having a strobe light go off in a dark room, and there's a lot of things moving around um, that are important in this equation. So just knowing that you have a high calcium score doesn't really tell you a whole lot. So anyway, or at least that's the lie I told myself. But in the back of my mind for the last couple of years, I've had this thought that I need to be vigilant uh, and aware of anything I felt going on that was cardiac related. So, but also, I'm trying to be as honest here as I can be. Uh, just to put it bluntly, I mean, to some degree, I had taken on, like I said, a pretty dark outlook. I was thinking in terms of, uh, you know, kind of completing my bucket list, if you will. Excuse me. And anyway, so I was doing the things I wanted to do for the last couple of years, and beginning of 2024, I decided that I was going to re-engage with Amazon and e-commerce in general at a much higher level than where I've been over the last couple of years. I missed it. It's been a great source of income. I had convinced myself by this point in time that I wasn't going to die um, from a heart attack or from calcium or anything like that. Convinced myself that I was basically superhuman and immortal and had nothing to worry about. And part of the reason for that is that after I got this calcium score, uh, a couple of years back, I went and spoke to some of the top cardiologists in the country, and I was examined by three different cardiologists, in great detail. Uh, They did stress tests on me. They did a number of different things. I really, the list is pretty long, but I mean, they did all the relevant tests. And other than a cardiac calcium score, there was nothing that indicated I had any problems at all. Uh, and I convinced myself, well, hey, this is just something I can live with. It's not going to it's not going to impact me, and I can live with it. So anyway, jumping to the present day or close to the present day, I left in March of 2024. Went to Thailand for a month. Transitioned from Thailand to China in April, where I attended the Canton trade show. Uh, Largest trade show in the world. It's a haven for successful Amazon sellers, and wanted to get back over there. Spent a month in China at the trade show. Came back to Thailand for a month, visited a couple of other countries in Southeast Asia pretty briefly, and then got back here in June. And for me, here is Central North Carolina. I live just outside of Raleigh, and anyway, um, some things starting to happen. Uh, June was a pretty quiet month, nothing to report. July started off as a very quiet month, nothing to report. And then one evening, July 21st to be exact, uh, I was in bed, had already gone to bed early, about 11 o'clock, went to sleep immediately, uh, and something woke me up, maybe 30 minutes to an hour after I'd fallen asleep. And really, when I woke up, didn't know what it was. Uh, Kind of, didn't even sit up in bed. Just kind of, once I was conscious, I just said, wonder why I woke up, and had just an unusual sensation in my chest, not pain, no, not discomfort. It's impossible for me to explain. I've been putting off making this video for a week, trying to come up with the proper language, but I just felt like something was a little bit off. But honestly, I thought had maybe rolled over and was sleeping on my arm or something like that. I had my right arm up under me, and I thought maybe that was just what had caused it. So I rolled over on my other side, went back to sleep, only to wake up about 30 minutes later with that same sensation again. And so I sat up in bed this time, and I thought, well, this is, again, nothing that I kind of ran through a self-diagnostic. There was nothing that I was feeling that raised any alarm. I wasn't sweating. I wasn't nauseous. I did not have any pain to speak of. Uh, I didn't have any sensation running down, my left arm, radiating to my shoulder, up my neck, into my jaw. Uh, there was nothing going on that would have signaled a heart attack in any traditional sense. So I thought maybe I had indigestion, and went in the kitchen, got a Coke, came back, drank about half the Coke, and forced myself to burp, uh, and rolled over, and went back to sleep. And again, woke up about 30 minutes later. Nothing had really changed. Had the same feeling again, or still. And I thought, I should do something. I should go check. I should go to the emergency room and just let them check me out. I'm like, they're gonna laugh at me, but better safe than sorry. And I won't go through all the twists and turns, but it took me 2 hours to leave the house. I literally got dressed, sat back in bed, watched TV for a few minutes, went out to the car, sat in the car for about 10 minutes, and said, "This is ridiculous." I went back inside, watched TV for another 30 minutes. Uh, Finally said, "Okay, you're either going to do this or you're not." Went outside, got in the car, and drove to the emergency room. And I'm very fortunate for reasons that will become clear. And just to tell you right now, this is going to be about a three-part video. Uh, and as much as I may seem to be rambling, I'm really not. I'm just setting you all up for some information that you're going to find useful. But there are several things that happened here that literally saved my life. Uh, I'm the most fortunate person in the world. But one of the things that turned out later on to be very, very fortunate is that Wake Med, which is one of the giant medical conglomerates that is here in Raleigh, North Carolina, uh, They have just opened uh, a, uh, uh, a separate campus that's strictly an emergency department facility about 3 miles from where I live. So that's where I went that night. I drove over there that evening, got there, I don't know, I'm going to say around 2 a.m., something like that, maybe 2:30, and told them what I just told you. Very vague, very non-specific, just that something just didn't feel quite right, and just for peace of mind, I wanted to come and maybe have them check me out. So, they put me on an EKG right away. Everything looked fine. They listened to my heart. Everything sounded fine. Uh, my pulse oxygen was, blood oxygen levels were perfectly normal, 98, 99, 100%. Uh, my blood pressure was fine. Uh, Nothing that would indicate externally there was a problem. But they came back and they took some blood. They came back in about 30 minutes later and said that my troponin levels, which is a cardiac enzyme that apparently is not present unless you're having some type of cardiac event, but it was at 30. And I said, well, what does that mean? They said, well, we don't really consider it a heart attack until it's, somewhat over 100. So, the doctor said, all I can tell you is that, we would definitely think that you have been under some type of heart stress in the last couple of hours. So we're going to keep you here for a few more hours, and we're going to check it again. Uh, Maybe an hour later, they took a second blood draw. If you're keeping track of this, I'm thinking that it was probably 3:30, 4 a.m. at this point. And at this point, they came back in, and uh, they, being the doctor and the nurse, and just said, hey, we want to let you know we're going to send you down to the main campus for Wake Med, which is the full hospital, and we're going to send you down there. It's just going to be a while because we got to get a bed for you, and but we definitely want to get you down there and let them check you out more thoroughly. And so anyway, uh, a few minutes after that, they came back in with just a much greater sense of urgency, and they said, "Yeah, we just got your blood results back from the second blood draw, and we're going to get you down there right now. We're going to send you down, as quickly as possible. There'll be an ambulance here to pick you up very shortly, and we're going to send you on down there." So they had escalated things quite a bit. Uh, anyway, they got me out of there in probably the next 10 minutes, and it's about a 15-minute ride down to the hospital. So they took me down to the hospital, and I was in a room, I believe, right around 7 a.m., um, and just kind of sitting there for just a few minutes, actually, maybe half an hour. Uh, I came in right at shift change. They changed shifts at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., so I came in right at shift change. The nurses came in, introduced themselves, the shift nurse, and the various other people that you're going to see, on the floor came in, introduced themselves, and then my day just started really, really fast at that point because they came in, uh, took me out, and I just started a series of one test after another that kept me out of the room from about 8 a.m. until about 3:30 p.m. Just going, literally, I had started off with CT scan, followed by chest X-rays, followed by echocardiogram, followed by uh, I don't know, some other things. I had about 8 different tests done. They just moved me continuously um, from one test to the next, and I'm really into process. So I mean, part of me was, and I was in no pain. I had no issues whatsoever. I'm sitting up. I'm talking to the people moving me around. I'm fully engaged in the process. I was really I enjoyed watching the people work. These were some just stone cold professionals. These people were really good at what they did, and I came to find uh, that, unbeknownst to me, before I went down there, this is actually the #1 cardiac care center in the United States. I had no idea. I mean, again, I live 15 minutes from there, and had no idea that this was such an esteemed facility and an esteemed staff. But yeah, they were wonderful, just really super professional, and clearly were experts at what they were doing. So I was calm throughout the whole thing. I was in no state of anxiety, no state of panic. Everything was good for me. I'm just kind of enjoying the show. Uh, and there were some comical elements to it because as I was being removed from or taken out of, I should say, the last test that I was in that day. Uh, and oh, actually, let me revise it. It wasn't the last test. I actually went into the catheterization lab. That was the last thing they did, and they ran a catheter uh, up my wrist. You may not be able to see it, but right there's a little dot right there, and they ran a wire up to there, a catheter up to there. They looked at my arteries and determined that I was not a good candidate for stents. I had blockage that, while my blockage was not tr- incredibly restrictive in any one place, the length of the blockage was such that stents just would not be a viable option for me. And they didn't tell me that at the time. They told me that a little while later, which brought about one of the more what I thought was kind of comical, because as the nurse was pushing my hospital bed out of the catheterization lab and taking me back to my hospital room, another nurse came to help guide the bed, and they were talking to each other. I'm just sitting there, kind of enjoying the ride, and the, one of them said, "Well, what have you got here?" And they said, "Well, you know, yeah, he's getting cabbage on Friday." And oh, really? One of the nurses was like, "Oh, really?" And he looks at me and says, "Yeah, you're getting cabbage." And I thought that was the craziest thing I've ever heard. I'm like, here it is. Because now, if you're keeping track, this is Tuesday afternoon, about 3 o'clock, and then I'm just sitting here going, does the hospital have great cabbage or something? I mean, what are you talking about? Is this? I mean, cabbage. I love cabbage. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I don't look forward to it 4 or 5 days out. Uh, I just thought that was a very comical thing. I thought these people might be a little bit off. If they're getting excited about cabbage 4 days that the hospital will be serving 4 days from now, uh, their expectations from life are uh, pretty controlled at this point. But anyway, I just was laughing inside for about the next half hour. But my laughter came to a pretty screeching halt when about 3:30 that afternoon, the cardiologist and two or three members of his team came in or the cardiac surgeon. Honestly, I've seen both, and I don't know what the distinction is between a cardiologist and a cardiac surgeon. But anyway, the cardiac surgeon came in about 3:30 with his staff, and they explained to me that I was already scheduled for surgery on Friday. Would I prefer morning surgery or afternoon surgery? I said, well, all things considered, let's get it done in the morning when you're, fully awake and ready to go. I said, I'm taking it on faith that you don't have a drinking problem and you're not going to come in hungover that morning. Uh, but I'm like, hey, I didn't see this coming, and like I said, in the back of my mind, it maybe had been there for a couple of years, but still, when they finally tell you, what you have waiting for you, it is a shock. But anyway, he explained to me that at that point that cabbage. He goes, "You're going to be hearing this phrase a lot, but it's cabbage." And I said, "Well, I wish you had told me that this morning." I said it would have put things in perspective or given me some context for some other things. But cabbage is cardiac artery bypass graft, and I was scheduled to have your classic um, triple bypass, uh, and that was pretty much it. They'd done all the tests. Like I said, that was late in the afternoon on Tuesday. All the tests were already done, and from that point, from then until uh, at least until Thursday, it was really a question of being monitored. Uh, you know, Continuously having blood drawn every 4 hours. They put me on a bunch of different IV drips, not with drugs in them, but actually with vitamins. My blood work was and has been pretty darn good over the years, but nobody's as perfect, and so they noticed I was slightly anemic, which is kind of funny coming from a guy who's 6'4" and 200 at that time 270 pounds. But I've been anemic my entire life. It has never caused me any problems. It's not severe anemia. I'm right on the borderline of what they consider the low end of the range. But all of a sudden, that became a big thing. They wanted to get me right in the middle, and they wanted all my indicators to be basically in just the perfect optimum range for the surgery, which, again, very professional, and just they're trying to set you up for a successful outcome. So anyway, I sat there in the hospital room, watched a lot of TV until Thursday afternoon. And Thursday afternoon, the surgeon that told me he would be doing the surgery showed up in my room with another surgeon and asked if it would be okay with me if they swapped. There had been a scheduling conflict, and if I didn't go along with it, that was fine. It wouldn't affect anything. That my surgery would be done by the surgeon as promised, when he promised. But they just said, would you have an objection to, switching surgeons? And I said, well, no, I'm fine with that. Uh, I mean, what are you going to say? I have no way of evaluating if one surgeon's better than the other. And again, everyone I met there was really super professional, and I had confidence in the institution. I had confidence in the department, and so I switched off and went with another surgeon. Uh, Next morning, uh, I'd been sleeping all week. I mean, hanging out in the not hotel, I'm sorry, hanging out in the hospital room is not really a very stimulating experience. Watched all the TV I really wanted to watch. I was I would sleep for a few hours, be awake for a few hours, sleep for a few hours, and so by Thursday night, I went to sleep without a problem. But I anticipated that they would be in around 4 a.m., which is kind of when the hospital's day starts internally. Um, you know, there were some humorous things that took place while I was in the hospital. One of them is they come in to, literally every morning between 4 and 4:15. They come in to weigh you, and it's like, is there some reason that 4 to 4:15 is the perfect time to weigh somebody? Just struck me as being really ridiculous, and it got irritating. Trust me, after a while, it got irritating. But anyway, so I expected someone to wake me up around four to 4:15 to weigh me, and they didn't come in that morning. But I was awake around 5 when a gentleman came in to prep me for surgery, which involved, thoroughly shaving my chest and cleaning me with antiseptic, and I don't know. It was a very thorough job. I've never had smooth or skin so smooth uh, in my life. I mean, little did I know that when I woke up, I was going to find that they shaved some other things too while I was under anesthesia. I kind of wish they'd at least give me some warning. Because woke up like a Ken doll. Just let's leave it at that. But anyway, they got me ready. About 7:30 in the morning, they rolled me downstairs into pre-op. Several people came in to see me in pre-op, and you know, pre-op for me was really kind of an interesting situation. Uh, Again, I'm in the process of just observing processes, and this place just was running like a well-oiled machine. This is a big hospital, a big surgical center, and while things were moving quickly, they were not moving in any kind of chaotic manner. Things were very organized, very structured, very methodical, and just everything I saw gave me confidence. And uh, I'm not a worrying person anyway. I mean, it is what it is, and I'm not going to sit there and worry about the situation. Uh, I was just hopeful for a positive outcome, and I felt like I was in a good place, the best place I could be. And but anyway, so while you're waiting, a number of people come in, and I had two nurses come in that told me they would be my nurses when I woke up. I would see them in post-op intensive care, and they told me, they said, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask you if you're in pain, and just let us know. We want to stay ahead of any pain you have. They're going to give you pain medication while you're in surgery. But after you wake up, if you need anything, do not wait until the pain becomes bad. Ask for it right away. Uh, and they said, we've got, and pretty close to their exact words, they said, we've got a whole cart full of really good drugs over here. and you can have anything you want. So do not hesitate to ask us for whatever you need. We do not want you to have any pain. And with that said, I want to point out that they also told me I would definitely have pain. They said, you're going to feel really, really, really bad. Uh, and, I'm not trying to give anything away because I'm telling you a story here, a true story, but I'm telling you a story. But I kind of wish they wouldn't do that, or I wish they had not done that. But anyway, they left. The surgeon came by to see me and told me that he was going to take good care of me. That was great. After he left, the anesthesiologist, and I don't know if that's really the proper term because in North Carolina you have an anesthesiologist who, it's my understanding, actually supervises about 12 people that pass the gas, so to speak. And the two people that came to see me were not, I don't believe they were not technically the anesthesiologists, but they were the people that were actually doing the work in uh, the surgical theater. They came in to see me, and had about a 5-minute conversation with them. Everything was good, and I'll be completely honest with you. And at this point, I'd had no drugs. No, I had not had anything. Other than a sip of water that morning, nothing had gone into me at all that day. Uh, that's the last thing I remember, is talking to the two anesthesiologists. I couldn't tell you anything that happened even a minute after they walked out. That was the last memory that was formed that day, or at least that morning. Uh, Next thing I know, I woke up and it was about 2:30 in the afternoon. This is on Friday. It was about 2:30 in the afternoon, and I don't know how to describe the sensation because it's really not much of a sensation. But I went from nothingness to fully awake in a split second. I have a lifetime of experience with people that have had surgical procedures done. Uh, my mother was involved in healthcare, and uh, you know, I've seen people come out of anesthesia uh, dozens and dozens of times, and especially my father had multiple surgeries in the last 20 years of his life, and he always had a really difficult time for a variety of reasons. It took a long time for the anesthesia to wear off of him, and he was not right for probably 18 to 24 hours after coming out of anesthesia. Very groggy, very disoriented, and he was always just freezing cold. It didn't matter how warm the room was, he just always really suffered. Just massive bone shaking chills. And I had kind of anticipated something along those lines myself. Uh, didn't have any of that. I woke up. Well, there's a large clock on the wall directly across from me, and that was the first thing I saw. And my brain was working instantly. I knew what time it was when I spoke to the anesthesiologist because, again, I'm in this little cubicle in the pre-op. There's nothing in there decor-wise except for this big clock. So I knew what time I spoke to them, and then all of a sudden my eyes were open, and I was instantly fully aware of what time it was. And I literally did the math in my head, and in normal speed, uh, like, okay, I've been under for X number of hours, about 4.5 hours, and next thing for me is that I had uh, just a fluttering way down, kind of between my chest and my stomach. Uh, I just felt a flutter down there that made me think I might be nauseous. I had a tube in. I had my breathing tube was still in. Um, so I raised my hands, and I know some hospitals tether your hands. My hands were not tethered. I had full use of my arms. So I raised my hands and pointed at the breathing tube, and immediately the two nurses I had met, earlier, were right there, and gently they just took my hands and said, "No, don't miss the tube." And I made it clear to them, I'm like, I'm okay. I mean, I'm aware, I'm conscious. I'm not doing something just reflexively, but I'm like, I'm okay. And they said, okay, we need to leave it in for a little bit more, and I fell asleep. Oh, and they told me they must have known really what I was thinking because they said you're not gonna throw up. They did say that, and as soon as they said that, I fell back asleep. And I don't know how long I slept. I don't think it was very long. When I woke up the next time, uh, again, I just with my other hand this time I pointed up. I'm like, yeah, can I get rid of this thing? Um, and they said, okay, a few more minutes, and then I didn't fall asleep this time. And literally within probably 10 minutes, uh, some other people came in the room. They said, okay, we're going to take the breathing tube out now, and they go through the whole process. Like, we want you to take a deep breath and then exhale very aggressively. And when you exhale, they pull the tube out. Not an unpleasant sensation. It's weird, but I mean, it didn't hurt. There was nothing unpleasant about it. Uh, and again, in what's kind of a comical situation, uh, is that as soon as they take that out, they put this mask on me, which is like well, it's a CPAP machine, but it's not like any CPAP machine you can buy. It was, and these are not my words; these are the doctor's words who put it on me, or the person who put it on me. This thing was like having somebody cup a leaf blower over your face. I mean, this thing must have had a 5 horsepower motor, and the air coming out of there was, I mean, quite literally, it was like a leaf blower. It was unlike anything I've ever experienced, and I honestly don't know how long I had it on. Uh, it was on for a while. It was, definitely an adjustment when they put this thing on you. I've never felt anything like it. And I've done scuba diving. I've worn oxygen masks for in other activities, but I've never had anything like this. This was just absolutely unreal. So they put this thing on me, and after a period of time, and it wasn't too long, uh, it just became harder and harder for me to tolerate it. Uh, so I remember the first time I reached up, and I just pulled it up a little bit because I wasn't taking it off. I wasn't fighting any of this, but and I had a nurse in each hand, but I raised it up, and they said, no, don't take that off. And I just said, I just wanted to talk. I said, I'm not taking it off, but I don't like this thing. And they're like, "Oh, we understand. Yeah, it's pretty rough, but just keep it on for a little while. We just want to make sure everything's okay." So I put it down, I kept it on, and actually I fell asleep again for some period of time. It wasn't long, but it was, I'll say 30 minutes. It could have been 15 minutes. It could have been 45 minutes, but it wasn't long. I fell asleep, uh, woke up again, and this time, again, if you're not breathing uh, in rhythm with this thing, about every second or third breath you take, it feels like somebody's punching you in the throat. It's just, it's not painful, but it's not pleasant. So anyway, this time I just used one finger and I stuck it up under there and kind of pried it up. I said, I really would like to get rid of this thing, please. They said, okay, we'll get the doctor. So they went and got a doctor. A couple of minutes, the doctor comes back in and says, yeah, okay, we'll get this off of you now. And they put one of the nasal cannulas on me, and much happier from that point in time. And again, they're asking me every 5 minutes. They're asking me if I'm in pain, and I'm not. And they kept saying, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain level? And I'm like, less than 1. I'm not in pain. Uh, and they just couldn't believe it. But I was not in any pain whatsoever. I mean, I'm not Mr. Tough Guy. Uh, if I had been in pain, I would not have hesitated to tell them. But I was not in any pain. My chest didn't hurt. Uh, you know, I was not in pain. Just leave it at that for right now. Uh, by the same token, I'm fully aware that, obviously I have IVs in both arms, midlines as they call them. I have, as I recall, IVs in both hands, the back of both hands, which weren't in use at the time. I think that's just where they come in to do, blood draws and things of that nature. And then I had the giant main line in the right side of my neck, and there's a plastic plate that fits there. Uh, and again, nothing was painful. Uh, the plastic plate, you know it's there, but it's not something that's bothersome. It just feels weird to have something hard and rigid up against the side of your neck, but it's not that large. Uh, so it's nothing you can't live with for a while. So anyway, uh, that was by this time we're probably 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening on the day of surgery. Again, I'm in post-op intensive care. Uh, at this point, I fell asleep. I don't remember watching any television that night. I don't remember the television in my room ever being turned on while I was there. But I slept that night, slept quite well. Had no pain. They checked on me on a regular basis. And I was, while I was sleeping, I was not unconscious. Uh, like when when they walked into the room, my eyes would open and I would just talk to them. I mean, I remember these interactions. I was fully aware. Uh, Again, just your body's been through trauma. You're tired. You want to rest. Uh, well, I didn't feel going into surgery that I wasn't anxious at all. I mean, I'm not an anxious person, fortunately. Uh, my anxiety level was probably about somewhere between 0 and 1, just like my pain level was. I trusted the process. I thought it was the best place I could be in, and I was good. I'm not somebody, I wasn't, I'm more nervous making this video than I was in the hospital, put it that way, and that was pre-surgery. But after surgery, the stress of surgery and the physical stress as well as the psychological stress, you have relief, and so I slept through the night. Other than when people came in to check on me and they spoke to me, and again they constantly asked if I was in pain. Uh, I slept peacefully and quite well. The next morning, they moved me to a cardiac intensive care unit, but I think they call it a step down level. Uh, and I stayed there. This is what they call day one post-op. So this was Saturday morning. I was there until Tuesday. Uh, other than other than uh, the annoyance, although it's necessary, it was an annoyance at being awakened. Uh, on average, I would say every 30 minutes for the next 4 days. Uh, the next 4 days went by very peacefully and very uh, painlessly. That afternoon, Saturday afternoon, they had me up and walking. Um, I was a little skeptical when they said, "Yeah, we're going to take you walking," because I had IVs. Um, well, let me back this up 1 second. That morning, they told me they would want me up and walking that afternoon. And at that time, I thought there's just no way that's going to happen because I had IVs in both arms and in my neck. Uh, I have a picture of myself on that's a really crappy picture, or I didn't insert it in the video, but it's me with a IV tree behind me, and I had 14 different things on my IV tree. Uh, it literally looks like a Christmas tree behind me, with all the different pumps they had going and everything. And I thought, there's no way I can walk with all this stuff. But during that morning, uh, my IVs came off of one midline on my left arm. Uh, I don't remember it specifically. It's not that I was unconscious. I just didn't make a mental note of it. But I believe they also came in. They took out my main line at that point, sometime midday on Saturday, and consolidated that into the IV on my right arm. So now, and also of the 14 things that I had hanging in the 14 bags, I was down by that point. So we're about 24 hours post-op. I was down from 14 bags of fluid or various things flowing into me. I was down to about 3 bags, and they put that on just a more conventional wheeled IV stand. And then I also had I had 3 drain tubes below my incision coming out of my stomach, and or lower chest, upper stomach area, whatever you want to call it. I had 3 drain tubes, and I had a device that was about the size of a 15-inch laptop that had the drain lines running into it. So they came in late in the afternoon and said, "Yeah, we want to get you up. We want to get you walking." And I mean, from a apparatus standpoint, I could see it happening. I knew I could do it, but I, I I really just wasn't sure. Um, I felt pretty darn good. I'll be honest. I mean, I felt fine. Um, but by the same token, they've impressed upon me so much how much pain I'm going to be in. They've impressed how I'm going to feel like I got hit by a truck, and that's why I said earlier, I kind of wish those nurses hadn't come in there and just told me how much pain I was going to be in, because in my instance, it did not really impact my way of thinking, and I'm able to kind of evaluate if I'm in pain or not. But I think for a lot of people, if you tell them they're going to be in so much pain when they wake up, they're going to manifest that pain. Um, and I'm not sure if that's really the ideal way of setting somebody up for this process. It seems like that would raise the anxiety level of most people. Um, but anyway, I didn't have any pain, and I had no reason to think I couldn't stand up and walk. But my concern was that as I stand up, I'm going to uh, overexert in some way, and something is going to hurt. So I was a little bit skeptical and very very cautious. But anyway, they had a plan. I turned around sideways on the bed, and they actually put a blanket under me, and then a nurse on each side of me as I started to stand up. They pulled, and they got me from that squat position up to standing, and I was fine. I had no issues with balance. Uh, there's also concern there that some people may have some blood pressure issues at that point in time. Their blood pressure might drop. They might feel faint. I certainly felt a little bit woozy from standing up, but I was in full control of my body. I wasn't concerned about falling down. Nothing was occurring that made me feel unstable or insecure. And I went out and walked, and they actually have this on this large cardiac intensive care floor. They have it broken up into about 4 sections, and each section they can tell you how far one lap is around each section. And my first lap, I went around all 4 sections, which that's not normal from what they told me. But did so without any problems. My breathing was good. Again, no pain. Uh, if anything, I just thought, I mean, I had the subconscious thought that for what I'm paying, it seems like somebody else should be pushing this IV tree, but I'm hanging on the IV tree with one hand and holding my drain thing in the other hand. And I thought, somebody should at least carry one of these. Uh, but I was stable, had no issues, and no complaints. So anyway, um, that's about all I can tell you right now about the surgery itself. I know I rambled a little bit here. There are there's some takeaways I want you to take from this. One, uh, first takeaway is if you have any thought, if you have even a second where you think, hey, I might be having some type of cardiac issue, go to the hospital right then. Don't wait. Don't dilly dally around. I'm telling you right now, in my particular situation, if you go back and watch how I described it, uh, 49 times out of 100, I would not have gone to the hospital. Okay, I just wouldn't have. Uh, it was that close because I just thought it was my imagination. I was not in any pain. I did not have any symptoms that you ever read about in terms of someone having some type of heart attack. Um, I have a difficult time referring to what I experienced as a heart attack. Heart attack in my mind is, maybe over dramatized, but it's where you see the guy clutching his chest and frantically dialing 911 and saying, I'm dying. Um, that's to me, that's a heart attack. In this case, I was going, I just feel a little odd. Uh, but had no symptoms of a heart attack whatsoever. Nothing I would identify as a heart attack. And in fact, when I went to the emergency room, they didn't say it, but had it not, I mean, I didn't have any symptoms that they identified as a heart attack either. So, I mean, had I not gone, I would not have died that day, or it's unlikely I would have died that day. But had I not gone and started this process, I probably would not have lived another 30 days. I probably would have had that classic over dramatized chest clutching heart attack that we all fear, or I would have had a heart attack in my sleep. But I probably would not have lived uh, for 30 more days. Also, in my case, if I didn't know that that emergency room had just opened, just about 5 minutes away from where I lived, I would not have made the 15-mile drive into town on my own. I mean, I could have. Don't get me wrong. Physically, I would have made it. I just would have talked myself out of it. If it had not been so convenient for me to go to that emergency room, I would, I would not have gone. I would not have put myself to the trouble of going down to the emergency room at their main campus. So that was one area where I was really, really lucky. And you know, don't take luck for granted. In this case, it really paid off for me. Uh, but the other, that's takeaway number one. If you suspect if, even remotely, you might be having a heart attack, get yourself to the hospital right then, no matter what. Even if you have to call an ambulance, just do what you got to do, but get there, because without going to the emergency room, like I said, I probably wouldn't be here making this video right now. Second thing is open heart surgery. Uh, and I've watched about 20 videos from actual patients since I had the surgery. Uh, and there is a wide range of outcomes in terms of people. The surgery is successful, don't get me wrong, but in terms of how it's handled. Uh, Again, in my particular situation, uh, as strange as it sounds, I was probably in better shape than a lot of people that had the surgery. I mean, I met a number of people in the hospital that had the same surgery either the day before, or the day of, or the day after I had mine. And not being overly critical, but just looking at them, a lot of them, even though some of them, well, quite a few were younger than I was. I'm 61, but there were people there in their 30s and 40s who were just morbidly obese. They were smokers. They were diabetic. They had histories of high blood pressure and high cholesterol and whatnot, and all these things had gone untreated, and it just led them down the path that they were in. I don't think I made the point earlier, but one of the reasons I was mentioning COVID is because the way that I had essentially bookmarks, if you will, on either side of me having COVID. Um, the belief is that COVID played a significant role. Not the vaccine, people. Don't get all excited. I'm heavily vaccinated and wouldn't have it any other way. What you do is your own business. Be as dumb as you want to be. But COVID itself, more so than impacting the lungs, also does vascular damage and neurological damage. And as a country, the U.S. is not politically able to handle that reality yet, where every other country in the world has already accepted that, and they have COVID clinics that are set up for people to help them in a cardiovascular sense or in a neurological sense, uh, post-COVID. The United States really has very few resources for post-COVID care. They think, okay, if you're not on a ventilator, you're going to be fine, and they just send you home. And that's probably not the case for almost 100% of people that get COVID. And in my case, there's no actual proof, um, but there is reason to believe and reason to examine a case like mine, where it appears that COVID probably played a role in accelerating greatly any coronary artery disease that I already had. Like I said, I had a very minor amount in like 2018, 2019, but it increased at a level that would not have occurred naturally. Uh, Probably at all, but certainly without a lot of other mitigating circumstances, such as or contributing circumstances such as diabetes or smoking or uh, other issues, none of which I had. So, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm a model of health, but I have eaten fairly healthy most of my life. Uh, I'm not afraid of salads or vegetables. I eat quite a few of those. I stay away from fast food. Um, I'm not a fast food guy. I'm not a processed food person for the most part, and that certainly has helped. A lot of things contributed to me having a really positive outcome. So the point I'm trying to get to here is that I've watched a lot of videos for other people that have had this open heart surgery, and cabbage is apparently the universally accepted terminology for this. And I've seen some people that are younger than I am on YouTube, where 6 weeks after the surgery, they can't raise their arms. They say they're getting better, but they still can't raise their arms over their head. They talk about experiencing a great deal of pain. Uh, I haven't seen many people that have said their issues were as pain free as mine were, or their surgery was as pain free and their recovery was as pain free as mine has been. So I've been very fortunate, and I just want to give you an idea of why I think maybe I've been that fortunate. But I mean, at no time had my body been physically, the sutures and whatnot, had I been physically able to uh, withstand, say, jumping jacks the day after surgery, I physically could have done them. Uh, Everything was good. My body was functioning normally. So anyway, so the takeaway here is that I want you to have is do not be afraid of the surgery. Uh, the surgery has come a long way in the last 40 or 50 years. I know as a kid, I knew people that were in their 50s that had open heart surgery, and it seemed like a lot of them never recovered fully at all, and it didn't seem to do a lot to maybe extend their life. Uh, but it's down to a science now. It is, there's a universally accepted standard of care, and if that standard of care is followed, and it will be followed at any Western hospital, and probably most of the hospitals anywhere in the world, uh, your potential to have a good outcome is extremely high, uh, unless you have major other issues. You'll probably have a relatively easy time of it. Uh, I'm told that the bone, my chest, my sternum healing, they say it's about 99% healed after 8 weeks, and after that, they say generally speaking, they release you to anything you want to do. You can lift things, you can work out, you can, you know, lift weights, lift boxes at work, do whatever you want to do. So what used to be in my memory as a child, knowing older people who got this, what used to be a year-long, or in some cases even longer recovery, is now uh, something that you're not looking at spending a year recovering from. Uh, I'm up, walking is the best exercise for this. Uh, I'm not trying to increase my mileage every day, but I go out and I walk a mile and a half. I have a measured loop around my neighborhood, and it's actually 1.7 miles, and I walk 1.7 miles without stopping at a fairly high rate of speed. I venture to guess that most of my neighbors would have a hard time keeping up with me, and it took me, uh, well, I can't give you a specific time because again, there's going to be a part two video, and there's a whole second chapter to this where things took a really ominous turn, and so there was actually a second surgery. Just to give you a little hint, I had some complications, but anyway, but after I was sent home on my fourth day post-op, again operation was on Friday. Uh, on Tuesday, I'm sorry, on Monday, they came in and took out one of my chest tubes, drain tubes. On Tuesday morning, they came in and said, we're going to try and get you out of here today. And someone came in shortly thereafter and took out the other two drain tubes, uh, which that in itself, that is a really weird feeling. Not painful, but weird. It's just a weird feeling. I mentioned to the nurse who took out my tubes, I said, this is I've never done this, but I said it kind of is like what I would think swallowing a live goldfish must be like, because you feel it moving around inside of you as she pulls it out, uh, and it's up in there. There's about 18 inches curled up around you uh, in your chest. Uh, but anyway, they came in and took that out, and then they released me a few hours later. So I got home about 5 p.m. 4 days post-op, and by Thursday, 2 days later, I was walking, you know, a quarter mile at a time without stopping. Felt really good, was stable, wasn't having any issues at all, and things were looking really, really good. Uh, so anyway, I'm gonna pretend like I'm a movie director and go, okay, cut. I'm gonna tell you there's part two to this. I'm gonna make it right now. Uh, but again, I just want to give you the takeaways that don't hesitate to go to the doctor. Don't hesitate to go to the ER. Um, Stay on top of this. Um, I had maybe convinced myself, either purposely or accidentally, that I was uh, the victim of a mistaken identity almost when it came to the cardiac calcium score that I had, and that I could somehow, circumvent maybe the fate, if you will. And we can't. Situation I had, went from being kind of an oddity, a medical oddity, to being an emergency pretty quickly. But in my case, again, very fortunately, without pain and with access to great medical care just a few miles away. Uh, and so don't hesitate to go to the ER. Um, don't fear this surgery. Fear is not going to help you. If you've got to have it, it's the only thing that's going to save your life more than likely. So get the surgery. Don't put it off. Don't fight. If these doctors tell you that you need it, you need it. They're not here to cut people open for no reason. Go into it with a positive mental attitude. Uh, and just keep a positive mental attitude. Uh, Again, in my case, I had no pain, literally no pain, other than whatever they gave me. And they told me they gave me some opioids while I was actually under anesthesia and having the surgery. Uh, I took nothing stronger than Tylenol the entire time I was at the hospital. And on Tuesday, actually, Tuesday that they were releasing me on, the nurse came in a couple of hours before they released me, and she was giving me my medication. And there were new pills in there. And I said, well, what are these two? And well, two of them were Miralax, laxative, and another one was some other type of laxative. And then she also said, I've got this for you as well. And it was like a little cup of some liquid that looked like prune juice. But she said, and there's this one. This is a laxative too. She goes, this one's really going to change your world. Uh, well, I wasn't having, and I said, well, why are these laxatives? She goes, well, opioids lock you up, and we don't want you to be constipated. And I said, I'm not on opioids. And she goes, oh, yeah, you are. I said, no, I'm not on opioids at all. I haven't had anything since surgery. And I've done my business, just fine. I don't need all these laxatives. And she goes, no, she goes, everyone's on opioids after open heart surgery. I said, I'm not. Look at my chart. She goes over and she pulls it up. And it was funny because she literally, I mean, this is sitting out, I'm sitting in the bed. This is on the table, the little hospital table. And she goes, oh my gosh. She reaches over and she grabs those laxatives back. And she goes, yeah, she goes, you don't want this and you don't want this. And she goes, you definitely don't want this one. And she goes, this would have rocked your world. I said, yeah, please. I really, they're sending me home in a couple of hours, and I don't want to be in the bathroom for the next 24 hours. So again, it was kind of funny that I'm glad I was keeping up with what I was on and what they were giving me. And it was just, she was apparently acting on. I mean, I know she was acting on doctor's orders, but those doctor's orders were written probably pre-surgery, just in anticipation that I would be on, opioids the entire time. Apparently, majority of people kind of are. But since I had no pain and I didn't request anything, I wasn't on any opioids. And yeah, no, I'm gonna leave it at that. But this is, again, we're gonna clap it. We're gonna go to part two real quick. Um, and part two, again, it gets a little ominous here. Uh, it has nothing to do with this initial surgery. I had a second surgery. Um, so take nothing but good things away from this video if you're looking at having, uh, open heart surgery, a bypass of any type. Uh, know that your outcome is almost certainly going to be a good outcome, and that you're not going to suffer, you're not going to be in pain, or at least nothing that can't be controlled, and that your recovery is going to be a lot faster than probably what you expect, and probably even faster than what they tell you to expect. Uh, so anyway, I'm gonna cut it off here finally, but go check on part two, and good luck with everything.